2 weeks later. So I would like to think of this place as a farewell place, and also convey my expression of gratitude. So so when I finished the presentation, so I'd like to tell about something about the gratitude and my reflection of bilingual life. All right? Yeah. Why?
It just might be slow, Dr. Bu.
Why? Oh. 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 I don't know. Please help me.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
1 second. You want to start here, right? Research purpose.
Here.
Okay. I know what's happening.
Please enter.
Yeah, I think it's using the timings. How do you turn off the timings yesterday? It was using the timings you had yesterday, Dr. Bu.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
So control my own.
Yeah, now this will.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. My research title is Actual Research on the Global Training Program Intercultural Communication Matter. This study aims first to develop the program of successful implementation of the global training, which is enacted as the theme, higher education policy design and development, and also aims to find the principal vocabulary for the next implementation. So there are some considerations for my research, 28 days implementation and 7 foreign countries and 12 participants. And the first experience of executive agency, my agency. So I want to know some references and some criteria, but there were few references and no criteria relevant to global training. So the reason is that I think the reason is that in our scholarly community, training program is not considered to be sustainable. This is generally targets or short period training for a specific purpose, therefore does not need a program with consistent criteria. And also there is the strong assumption that consistency in the global training program is not possible and practical due to the diverse cultural backgrounds of the participants. So I think action plan is the best methodology to conduct the successful implementation and develop the global training program and establish the principle of vocabulary. So therefore, this action plan follows the spiral stages to identify, plan, act, and reflect the global training program, drawing on the Bachmann's idea. So I'd like to present my action research stage by stage. The first stage is about identifying. The first step for identifying the direction of action research is to reflect the voices of stakeholders. This action plan was interconnected with 3 stakeholders. The first stakeholder is funding agency KOICA, Korea International Cooperation Agency, and executive agency is my Center for Multicultural Education and Research, and the 7 participating countries. So I get needs data from stakeholders. I summarize the stakeholders' needs brief. And first, the COICA's needs to build a sustainable relationship and understand the educational environment of the participating countries as assisting them to design educational policy. And also, participating countries want to understand Korean culture and building the sustainable relationship and applying the higher education model of the Republic of Korea to their context. Our center also wants to find the principle of workability and developing the global training program. So 3 research questions are derived from these needs. First question is, what is the desire of management? This is about for building sustainable relationship and managing good image. And the second question is, what is the desire of types of experience? This is about organizing the contents. The third is, what is the desire of a principle of improving workability and developing of the global training model. This is about sustainable implementation. So I extracted the definitive objective to reflect the needs of stakeholders. So the objective of action research was established as developing intercultural communication model. So, and the researcher's position plays the important part in action research. My position inside researcher and my role, executive director, observer, and developer. So I established some strategies for validity in order to improve credibility and trustworthiness because it is very important because I'm inside the researcher. So some strategies are like this: triangulation for collecting data, member checking, and persistent observation and expert debriefing. Next stage is to plan. First of all, I reviewed the related literature. So I examined the theoretical basis in the intercultural educational model. This model is categorized as below: compositional model, development model, and co-suppressor model, and co-orientational model. So I think co-orientational model is considered as the most compatible in intercultural communication model to short-term global training. So I borrowed these perspectives and some ideas from co-orientational model, especially based on Theodor's explanation. This model is highlight the role of cognition and concepts of common perspectives, and pay attention to what motivates the interactants to pursue the common goals when they reach a threshold level of mutual understanding. And especially the concept of impression management in the co-orientational model has a suitable ideas to build sustainable relationship and good image and sometimes trust. So, according to Kapla's assertion, impression management plays a significant part in the intercultural communication for the interactions to interrelate effectively and causally. And the positive impression enables trust building. So you can see this picture. So I adopted the concepts and ideas of co-orientation model to context of research, my research. So I established this picture as the theoretical guidance to plan, act, and reflect. So you can see this picture as two sides, interactions, intercommunication, positive, and all day long, all the process, we plan to make a positive impression management. For example, participants should know to understand higher education of host country and also the context. And we also understand current issues of higher education in participating countries and also the current the context. So inter understanding and intercommunication, yeah, interaction. So after when I finished the big picture, I would like to understand the participants. So I gathered the basic information, country, position, age, and Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, the Republic of Ukraine, and Pakistan, Republic of Guinea-Bissau, and El Salvador, and Argentina. So after the next, in order to understand the current issues of higher education, we received the information from participants self-reporting on current issues of their homeland. So by a previous email before opening the global training, this reporting was categorized as follows. There are 5 themes. So we considered these themes to organize the context. And then I conduct SWOT analysis for contextual information. We got information from the wide level statistics. So religion and GDP and industrial structure and the number of internet users and the number of universities. And we conduct SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunity, and authorities. This is one sample. So let's go to the next stage. First of all, I organized in the stage of act. I organized the contents. So previously, I made the comprehensive evaluation model based on the CIPP evaluation model. I think this model is suitable to monitor each of the process of the training program and help the researchers make a possible decision. This model is divided into 4 processes. So context, input, and process and product. So I applied these processes to organize my contents. This is a holistic and comprehensive evaluation model for our global training. So you can see left side. Left side is divided into 4 parts: theory, strategies, and application and experience. These parts are a sort of objectives or characteristics for organizing the contents. And also you can see the process of CIPP evaluation model: context, input, process, and product. First, module 1 is about context. Context include the global trend and history and structure of higher education of Republic of Korea. And as an input, module 2 and module 3 composes of differentiated issues and common issues. These issues is various aspect of higher education, aspect of contents surrounding the higher education. So policy, curriculum, methodology, etc., etc. And process module 4 has contents of strategies for the current issues. You can see 4 spheres. Every sphere has the same structure. First step, lectures for theories and theoretical principles, and second, lectures for cases or field trip, and third is reflective discussion. So these current issues come from participants reporting current issue about current issue. So, and following process product. A product is the outcome of global training program. So module 5 has contents to design action plan. The action plan goes step by step. So before the first step, it starts country report. And action plan 1, actualization of current issues. Action plan 2, strategy analysis. It means it did a SWOT analysis. And action plan 3, setting practical ITP action plans. And it means through workshop and guided workshop. And action plan 4, report representation. The last product, module 6, has contents to experiences to understand Korea culture. And so it includes field trip, industrial inspection, and cultural inquiry and cultural experiences. So after I made a big picture, the evaluation model, and next I organized the time. Total 122 hours were allotted like this. Lectures 55 hours, and activities for building relationship 8 hours, etc., etc. So I established their schedule, goes from 9:30 a.m. to 5 a.m., 5:30 p.m. Morning 3 hours lectures on the theories. After 2 hours application lecture or field trip, and evening hours reflective discussion. Next, I organized the roles. There are many 4 parts of roles. Researcher, lecturers, assistant facilitators, and supporters. So researcher has to progress and monitor the program, and lecturers' roles is to offer lectures on theories and application cases. In our global program, and assistant facilitators and supporters took important part in intercultural communication matter, especially assistant facilitated helped participants to understand, interpret, and apply to their homeland context. And the supporters, as soon as possible, when participants asked something about something, and fast and quickly respond to them. So these roles are very important. The highlight is action plan, the outcome. So I organized the approach to design action plan. So at the beginning, first of all, they made a report of current issues in higher education. While the program is running, analyze the application cases and theories Korean higher education in comparison to their own. And at the final, action plan workshop guided participants to organize their plans. This is one sample. One participant present at the final time. So this is current issues of higher education and the context. current issues context. And he conducted SWOT analysis, strengths and weakness. And he established suggested two action plans. And he analyzed the strength and weakness of their homeland to in comparison to host-land, and so compared their situation with Korean situation and extracted important weakness and strength. Second trial, and there is he suggested some strategies. The final stage is to reflect. I conduct triangular evaluation. So 3 parts evaluation is implemented. COICAS evaluation, questionnaire and interview, and same as the evaluation, interview and observation. And participants' countries' evaluation, self-reflective reporting, and the outcome action plan. First, the participants' assessment is like this. The highest score is about products. Products means the design, the action plan. The lowest score is about preparation process. Frankly speaking, this is not our sentence sphere, just just the COICAS sphere. So I think we achieved implement successfully. Yeah. We got responses from participants. This is about content satisfaction and the production satisfaction and sustainability satisfaction. It means only 10% of participants has a negative or middle ranges of positive responses. So almost all participants were very satisfied. They checked. So in the summative evaluation workshop in which all the lecturers, facilitators, and staff members and supporters participated, we expressed the training was such a valuable experience. This is our first experience. And looking forward to working with the new participants, they discussed the new aspects to be reflected in the next training program, so which will be developed matter of the existing method. So I think the global training program for intercultural communication matter has become a place of communication, offering positive experiences to both participants and our team. So global training experiences have produced valuable results, which realize the intercultural understanding, communication, and trust building and positive attitudes to collaborate. So our center have a first experience. So we did action research. As a result, we are successful outcome. We have a successful outcome, and so in the first trial, for first trial, action research is best methodology, I think. Yeah, listening to my presentation. Thank you. So for a minute, I'd like to tell about some gratitudes. So thank you for all faculties and all members. Thank you. So especially for Kevin, thank you. I admired the delicacy in which he treated his guests, and so he is always busy, and he was always busy, but surprisingly, he willingly and supported me and advised me and whenever something happened. Thank you. And although he is not here, Dean Francisco Dean, I saw his excellent leadership and generous attitude to exchange scholar. And I think I remember the members, especially Christine Carson. I found one woman who is attractive, and if I continue live here, maybe I desire to have a relationship with you, but I am, but I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I couldn't keep my promise to eat Korean food together. So, but I will be open, keep my promise someday. We don't know what future is so. And I learned a lot from Kirsten's class. Although her class title was not multicultural education, but her instructional method, contents, and attitude to their students was reflected the philosophy of multicultural education. And so thank you her for her learning a lot. So I think all faculty numbers course are same like Carson's Carson. That is to say, in Bellingham, especially at West Washington University, multicultural education is institutionalized in teaching practices and climate and attitude. So and I found this atmosphere when I visited the Kursia Middle School. I made observations of the color. So there I saw teachers seem to accept diverse children's expression, but at the same time integrate the instructional intention and educational environment. Even the structure of a building seem to be considered diversity. So as a universal design and interconnecting arrangement, so I can't help admitting that your education system and practices are advanced. So when I come back to Korea, my homeland, I will reflect what was happening here. Yeah, and the meaning of living here is healing time, just healing time and learning time. So saying once more, thank you. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Bu, for your presentation and for both your work in Korea and the training happening there, but also your words about kind of thinking back on the last 6 months here. So at this point, we had planned this for there to be kind of an open discussion. And so, everybody, it would be great for people to ask questions for Dr. Bu, and it might be about the training itself, or it might be about Korean higher education, or, the last part was really interesting about thinking about her experience here. And so part of it is she spent a lot of time out at Kolshin Middle School with Kirsten, one of our instructors for a different class, for the Methods 1 class, actually. And so she spent a lot of time observing, so that's what she was talking about there. So I think that'd be interesting to kind of open it up for questions that people might have or comments on the presentation.
In what ways, in Kirsten's class, when you talked about integrating like multicultural education in their curriculum, in what ways did you see that? As we've been reading our books, we kind of are seeing how that needs to be like worked on in our elementary schools and our education system in general. So what did you see?
Yeah, I joined the Carson's class. This class characteristics is a practicum class. So I can make observation all the process, her attitude and her syllabus and her method. So but she expressed the multicultural education. Just is reflected the method and reflected the contents and reflected the attitude. So that was very impressive. Yeah.
What did you see the school doing?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the school itself doing something? So the teachers at Kolshan or the principal, were they doing something special that you saw?
Oh yeah. So that is not special, just a common environment. So I can see multicultural education is reflected inside. So natural goes natural. So I feel the philosophy of multicultural education respect diversity.
In what ways is natural in the Kolshan school? In what ways could other schools that maybe have not fully accepted, for instance, my mother's teacher in her district, how could we translate those skills in that education system into other districts?
Oh yeah, I didn't have a chance. I didn't have a chance to see another school. So, but I heard Christian schools a common level of schools, economic and etc. etc. So, this is common, I think, in your country and in Bellingham. So, yeah.
Other questions people have? How would you, this is a difficult question, but how would you see Korean, so you went to a middle school, Kolshan Middle School, and you've also had experience visiting Korean or middle schools in Korea. So what are some differences that you can observe that in your observations?
Korea has rapidly changed. So, frankly speaking, I am not teacher. So, I don't have any chances to make observation in the middle school of Korean classroom. But I think there is differences between Korean context and American context. American context is very slowly developed, advanced. I think multicultural education means respect another cultures and multicultural education about the social justice, equality. So in Korea, in the case of Korea, we accept the concept of multicultural education, but we this is not institutionalized in our customs. So there is a little bit of conflict between and so Korean custom and multicultural education. We adopted the Western countries, and so a little bit conflict, I think. So I don't know. So when I return Korea, I will make a observation in our country's class.
Do you hope to find any similarities between the Korean and the?
Yeah, of course. So I think there is similarities between two countries because if I can recognize it or not, school systems was westernization. Yeah, so same structure and same contents, a little bit same contents and same perspective gathered. We if we want or not. So maybe multicultural education has changed similarity as into similar and perspective similar and direction. I think. So there is a little bit big gap between your country and our country. So we can't solve this program.
One of the things I want to add in, just as a bit of context, Dr. Bu, please add in. But so Korea has largely not had very much intermarriage within the culture. So it's largely Korean people marrying other Korean people, but not from other countries. But approximately within the last maybe 15 years or so, there's been more and more intermarriage. So people coming from other countries and marrying Korean people and staying in Korea. So the growth of interracial children has just kind of exploded within Korea within the last decade or 2 decades, more or less. So one of the things that happened then is this idea of a multicultural education or intermarriage or diversity as understood in the United States, which has had a longer history, has only happened within the last 2 decades within Korea and exponentially. So Korean scholars, educational scholars like Dr. Bu and her dean, Dr. Cha, they just started the idea of multicultural education within the last 5 or 10 years as we read it in our textbooks. Do you see? And so what they've done, and you mentioned it earlier, because they had no history of multicultural education in terms of scholarship, they read a lot of American scholars, like the ones that we're reading in class. But here's where the rub is, right? Because it's a different country. So taking the idea of the book that we read in class and saying, okay, we'll use it in Korea is problematic because the history of the country is different. The types of intermarriage is different and the history is shorter, right? So it's this, that's what you mentioned earlier, it's very complex because now we've been borrowing and reading US multicultural education books, but they're not as useful for us.
Yeah.
Is that?
I agree. I agree to your opinion. Yeah. So in our society, multicultural education is about global responding to the globalization. Yeah. Since the 1990s, we opened our gate and just and increased the increasing number of foreigners. So, but there are 3% of total population foreigners. So small amount. Yeah.
And one of the and so having gone to some of the, and they're in certain areas. So they're in, for example, farming areas where farming communities where some of, particularly the females, have left the farming areas, and then the males are left behind, and then they intermarry with other women from other countries surrounding Korea. So that's one area of growth. And then the other area of growth is in kind of industrial areas where there's need for more workers, for example, at factories. So in Incheon, for example, I think, right, very close to Seoul, there's a higher rate of intermarriage because of the need for foreign workers.
Yeah. So yeah, you know our country better than me.
Our dean is a leader at Western. Dean Rios is a leader in the United States multicultural education, but her dean, Dr. Cha, is one of the leaders and the original developers of multicultural education in Korea.
So. Yeah.
With the intermarriage demographic compared to maybe in the United States where there might be families from one culture, but a culture that might be different from the majority culture in the United States, children could come into a classroom not knowing the language or not knowing the culture as as well as maybe a child from an intermarriage? Because so are there many children that would need to learn Korean as a language, or is it because of the intermarriage not a problem? They're bilingual.
Yeah, we are mono-ethnic, so intermarried family assimilated into the Korean society. So want to know just one language, Korean. So I think a comparison to your country, our country's step is one step. So according to the Venice cultural sensitivity, our sphere is one step, just and defense or ignorance. Because we don't know another culture. We don't know. So first step, do you understand?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to think about that idea of that they're at the initial step of understanding other cultures or other countries because there hasn't been that influence, right? Versus the United States where we've had this, we take it for granted, right, that this is going to happen or that it's been a part of the history. But imagine it, right, that it was a largely monocultural society and just within the last 15 years, well, now it's 3%, but in some areas it's 10 or 15% of the student population. Within 5 or 10 years, it's changed. And lots of Korean language learners where you didn't have any before, overnight, or in a rural area with only having 2 students, maybe, who are coming from, it's just, this idea of step one is really what to do, right? What do you do?
So I guess your society's step and Bellingham's step is third step. Minimalizations. Do you know minimalizations? It means you have perspective, domestic perspective, but want to hope to understand another cultures in your society. Do you understand? Yeah.
How many steps are there? Are there 5?
6. 6 steps.
So we're halfway there.
Yeah. Following step is acceptance and following an adaptation and integration.
6 is integration. Okay. Other questions or comments?
Okay, as you talk about these steps, are there any countries that you see at like step 4, 5, or 6?
I think it is very impossible. Some people has 3 possible 3 steps. It's a global leader sometimes and NGO persons. It's possible to have 6 or 5 steps. But immigrants, in the case of immigrants, children have 2 perspectives, mother's perspectives and father's perspectives. So they can be reached to the 4 steps. Acceptance and adaptations is possible. So in the new global trend and in the following time, maybe 2 cultures having persons have a competence. Yeah.
I have a question. So you study different levels of school with middle school and here at university and in between. So do you see the level of implementation of multicultural education being different? Like it increases the higher you go for like at college? Is there more of it or does it stay kind of constant in every school that you've been to? It starts out at one level and kind of stays that way. Does that make sense? Of how much of that multicultural education you see? Does it change depending on what year in school they are?
But frankly speaking, I want to learn multicultural education and make observation of multicultural education. But I can't find multicultural education, frankly speaking. No one says multicultural education. In Korea, we speak multicultural education when in your society. So no one speaks multicultural education. Even the teachers don't know. Just institutionalized slow by slow in your cultural customs. So because your country has a long history to become multicultural society. So step by step, and you have tips and practices, and so don't speak multicultural education, natural. But in our society, non-natural, we can see, of course, some districts we can many intermarried women and neighbors, foreign neighbors, and in the common society, in common village, we can see foreigners. So one foreigner appears, wow, afraid and escape sometimes. Yeah, a little bit better improvement in Korea because mass com influence of so many trips to travelers to another countries as people, so a little bit improvement. But in my own life, we can escape foreigners because we don't know. But your culture, natural. It is a little bit differences. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To me, it's really interesting. Again, discussion so that people kind of jump in. But to me, it's really interesting to think about what will happen for Korea in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years. So what I'm hearing you say, Dr. Bu, is it's kind of strange or new, or we can avoid it because there aren't that many foreigners in my town. But what will it look like in 30 or 40 years? I think that's a fascinating question. Like, will it continue to be, I can avoid it? Or is it will become more common within schools as intermarriage grows? So it's not a question really. In Korea in the future, to think 30 or 40 years from now, what might that look like? And what are the demographic projections? In other words, intermarriage is 3 or 4% of the people population now, but the projection demographically is 5%, in 10 years or 20 years. So to think of what will happen, there's no answer, but it's just interesting to consider.
Korean societies have changed. Of course, immigrants come in Korea. On the contrary, we go out abroad. So exchange immigration situation. So I think first changed, although we have many foreigners or not. So I think in our society, multicultural education emphasizes on global perspective. So exchange, immigrated and immigration from here and there. So common perspective. Yeah. In your society, a different context in our society. So this is needed, I think.
What would be the basis of the common perspective?
Common perspective. So it is very difficult, and so I think a common perspective is conscious of a global community. Yeah. So this problem in our country is on our problem, not on our problem. All around the world, problem interconnected with each other. So we can be conscious of them. So when foreigners come in Korea, we can keep a temper and moderate temper, excessive kindness and excessive disliking. Don't be just keep commemorative kindness, moderate kindness, or keep yeah. Ah, thank you.
So I want to be mindful of time. I just want to I want to thank Dr. Bu in just a second. But maybe if people have usually at the end of guest lectures and etc., I like to give people an opportunity to share with the speaker. This is something that I really learned. I really appreciate this thing about your presentation. This was really helpful to me as a teacher education student to hear the perspective. So I'd love to get some perspectives from people in the room around giving some feedback to Dr. Bu. This was really helpful. I really appreciate this part of your presentation, etc. So any thoughts, thank yous, or considerations?
I really appreciated the way you broke it down and put like pictures and graphs and everything just so we could have a visual of that.
Thank you.
With that said, I have to go.
Okay.
I have
No, no.
to go to
Yeah.
so, thank you.
Thank you.
I also really loved the action plans, how you laid out the action plan and then showed an example. Was it Indonesia's action plan? I thought that was really interesting. I'd like to see the other action plans.
Oh yeah, I have another action plan also. Yeah. So I'm a practitioner, so all programs as an action plan researcher, I developed all the programs. So always a same process we consider.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or thank yous? I want to thank Dr. Bu for putting together the presentation. I know she practiced a lot. I think you were playing earlier the practice you made last night. So, so thank you to Elaine for changing the setting, and to Christina and Jana for helping us set up the room. And we're very happy that the time spent here was helpful to you in your research, and we were able to learn a lot, a bit, not a lot, about Korean educational systems today. And just learning more as we go. So thank you for introducing that to us. So let's give another round of applause. And please, everybody, grab some cookies or lemonade as you leave if you want to bring some home. Thank you.
Thank you.